Do I set up a business LLC? How do I pay taxes? Do I pay quarterly taxes? When do I pay those taxes? All of these are questions I get asked frequently as a Pinterest marketing expert and coach who helps women and men start their freelance Pinterest management business from home. One of the things that is so amazing about freelancing and helping people start their Pinterest management business is they truly do not need to have a background, a degree, formal education in business, sales, or marketing in order to be a successful freelance Pinterest manager. And it's just so amazing that we live in this incredible time where we can change careers. And I do recommend investing in some type of skills training or education so that you can learn a new skill and that you can feel confident in offering that as a service. And that's exactly what I do through my Pinterest Manager Academy. So if you are interested in becoming a Pinterest manager, I would love for you to check out some of my resources that I have linked in the description of this episode. I also want to quickly invite you to like this episode, subscribe to my channel, because I talk all things Pinterest marketing and helping people start their Pinterest management business. So if that's something that interests you, there are tons of episodes on my channel that are going to serve you. So now back to your business foundations and setting up that LLC and paying taxes. These are two of the most common questions I get asked about with people who are very serious and interested in starting their business. And they want answers to these questions because it's serious. They want to make sure that they are properly running their business and keeping their business in legal standing. So what I'm going to share with you today is exactly what I did in the early days and stages of my business. I am not an accountant. I am not providing any type of advice in terms of paying taxes. I'm sharing simply what I've done. I highly recommend when it comes to some of those important questions, things can vary state to state. So I would recommend consulting, hiring, sitting down with somebody who is a certified tax professional so that you have somebody that you can ask questions to and can support you through that process. That's honestly what I did in those early days. My husband and I, we had done a few different things. At one point, I was filing my taxes myself, and then we got married. We had different things with having gone to college and loans, and so we did go to H&R Block. It gave us a little reassurance, even though we were meeting with different people year to year, to just have somebody help us through the process and make sure we were crossing all of our T's and dotting all of our I's. But then as we've had investments and different, layers of, I don't want to say complication, but just additional things to take into consideration when you're filing your taxes come up, we decided that we needed to build a relationship with somebody that we could meet with every year, or maybe even, discuss things with quarterly. And that's actually what I've done with my accountant. And I've had that person that I can refer back to. And because I do pay quarterly taxes as a small business owner, it's really nice to have that person that I have a relationship with. And as things ebb and flow with my business, which they naturally do, we can always adjust things accordingly, so then there's not surprises when it comes time to pay your taxes, which is definitely, provides relief. So let's rewind a little bit though, and I want to take you back to 2018 when I first started my freelance business. So one of the first things I decided on was my business name. I went with something classic, something that I knew would allow me to grow and pivot. And because I wasn't sure if I wanted to stay a virtual assistant, I didn't want to have a name such as Virtual Solutions, or not that there's anything wrong with that, but I didn't want to have something that was super specific in regards to my business name related to my services. Now I know that might sound strange, but I knew that I was so new to business that I wanted to have something that would allow me to grow and evolve. So I started as a virtual assistant. Then I pivoted to social media management because I knew that niching down my freelance services would also allow me to scale my income, and I really wanted to become an expert at one thing. I actually focused on social media management for about a year before I decided to pivot to Pinterest. And I pivoted my services because I honestly just did not enjoy social media. And so being able to focus on Pinterest, which is a search engine, the platform is just totally different. And so once again, I was kind of starting back over. I had a lot to learn because what I was doing as a social media manager was actually a lot different than what I do as a Pinterest manager. So I do want to say throughout this journey, I originally invested in a course that taught me business foundations and really how to set up my freelance business. As a former teacher, I did not even really know what freelancing meant, what starting a business required, and I had a lot to learn. So even though I didn't have to go back to college or trade school, I did invest in online courses that offered skills training. And it was one of the best decisions, one of the best investments I ever made, because I wouldn't have known really where to start. And yes, there's the University of Google. You're on the University of YouTube watching this episode, and it's so amazing that you can learn so much through the internet. But I really wanted a clear, straight path and the fastest route to success. So then rather than trying to find the puzzle pieces, being provided the puzzle pieces that I knew would, provide this complete picture of starting my freelance business. So I decided on my business name, which was Emily Vales, and I'm so glad I chose that. Emily Vales LLC is what my business name has been for the past 6 years. And like I said, it's allowed me to grow, evolve, pivot, and I don't have specific services, associated with that business name. So I decided on that business name, and then the next thing I did, I actually got my EIN number. So I would recommend getting that EIN number, and it's something that's free to do, and I was able to obtain that right away. So I actually did get that EIN number prior to setting up my LLC. So the EIN number is your employer identification number, and depending on where you're banking, if you're setting up a business account, a lot of banks will require that you do have an EIN number. And it's nice too, because depending on paperwork that my clients were needing me to complete, rather than using my social security number, I was able to use that EIN number in place of that social security number. Now, I did wait in the beginning days of my business. I waited about, I started my business in July of 2018. It was March of 2019 that I actually established my LLC. And I have a friend who is an attorney, and she was actually able to help me with that. And she was actually doing some freelance work herself, and she was actually working on building testimonials. And so she set up my LLC for me in exchange for testimonial. So that was super nice to have, and it was also very convenient. It was kind of a win-win for both of us. And a lot of people would recommend doing that day one. And of course, it's something important to do, because when you are setting up your LLC, it's really protecting your personal assets in case of having any type of legal issues or bankruptcy with your business. So it's just a great thing to do. And in the beginning, one of the reasons why I did wait is because I would say at least the first month of really starting my freelance business, I actually didn't have any paying clients. So there wasn't really anything to protect, because I wasn't working with people yet. There wasn't exchange of money yet. And I didn't really feel that I had a business quite yet, because even though I was working on establishing those foundations and learning what I needed to learn in order to offer my services as a freelancer, I wasn't actually working with clients. Now, once I started working with clients, could I have established that LLC a little bit sooner? Yes, but this is just what I did. Now, I do want to mention I am not a tax professional. I'm also not providing legal advice. I'm simply sharing what I did in the early days. So I did choose a business name right away, and then I got my EIN number, that employer identification number, and then about 5 to 6 months later, I did set up my LLC to really protect myself and separate my business from my personal assets. So that's really what I did in the beginning with the LLC. And there are different online sources that you can use when you're setting up that LLC, and there's different options you can look into. So pivoting now and thinking about taxes, especially because once I did start working with clients, this was something that I needed to consider. So in my Pinterest Manager Academy, I teach my students my systems, my tools, my processes, and really what I use to keep track of my books. And what that means is the money I was spending or investing into my business, and then also the money that was coming in and what I was essentially getting paid from my clients. Now, in the beginning, because I just had a few clients, just had a few business expenses, taxes. It was very easy to track, which is one of the things that's beautiful about having a service-based business is that you have very little overhead costs. So I didn't have a lot of expenses to track. And because I slowly built really my client base, I didn't have a ton of money coming in, and I was able to grow at a pace that I was able to keep up with, if that makes sense. So I was learning a lot, but I also didn't have a ton to keep track of just yet. So I used &Co. &Co is no longer a thing. It's now been essentially rebranded to Fiverr Workspace. Not to be confused with Fiverr, but Fiverr Workspace. And it's a platform that I use for really keeping track of money coming in, coming out. I can use it to create contracts. I can use it to create invoices. And it's really, like I mentioned, where I'm keeping track of money coming in and coming out. Now, as I've had courses, digital products, it's kind of added new layers, and I even use additional platforms. And so I have other sources of income now that I have to keep track of, but I also have additional expenses. So it did start to get a little bit more complicated, but I had this foundation in the beginning, and I have grown at a pace that was really doable for me. So it wasn't like I just exploded overnight. And that's the thing with businesses, it is slow and gradual, but at the same time, that really worked best for me because I had so much to learn. And I felt like I was able to keep up with the pace of growth I was experiencing. So when I decided to start my business, my husband and I discussed it. There were other things within our family and our personal life where we were investing in different things, where we felt like we wanted to have a relationship with somebody and have essentially an accountant that we met with, could refer to, depending on what questions we were having come up for us. So we did establish a relationship with somebody who was an accountant, and it was so nice because especially with having my freelance business, my income has ebbed and flowed. And so I actually pay quarterly taxes, and those are estimated taxes. And so that's been really nice because I've had quarters that were way higher than I thought they were going to be, which is amazing. And then I've had quarters where I'm like, oh, we're not on track. So I don't think I'm going to need to pay as much this quarter. So we've just adjusted accordingly. And so it's nice to have that person who I can refer back to who is a professional. And then that's allowed me to not have any of these oopsies or surprises where I ended up at the end of the year owing all this money. I think that's a huge fear for a lot of people who have never run a business and have been an employee, and they're not thinking about those things. And it can be scary to know that you are responsible for paying those taxes, keeping your business in good standing. And I just want to say it was so much, and it's been so much less intimidating than I thought it was going to be. And in the beginning, because I didn't meet with that accountant like day one, so I started my business in July of 2018, but then I really didn't start making income until August of 2018, and then it picked up in September of 2018. And I had been told, set aside 20 to 30% of your income for taxes. Well, I also had to take into consideration, which I didn't originally, I just didn't think about it. I had invested in this course, and it wasn't a ton of money. This was a general freelance course, but it was about $700. And right out of the gate, that's a business expense. That was something I was investing in to start my business. And so I was kind of like negative $700. So when I started getting paid and I'm setting money aside, I still had this deficit of $700. Now I quickly made back that investment, but I just want to say that even though I hadn't met with an accountant yet, I wasn't paying quarterly taxes from that time of essentially August to, the end of December, that when it came time to pay taxes and we met with our accountant in March, or it might have been February of 2019, I think it was February of 2019, and I had all this money set aside, I did not owe nearly as much as I thought I was going to. So I had created this little nest egg for my business, which was amazing. So of course it's kind of nice to set aside too much money, and that was my experience. But then from that point forward, because I did start paying quarterly taxes and I had those estimated taxes based off of if I had this many clients, I really did feel like I had a good handle on those estimations. Then, I was paying taxes. And so when I got to the end of the year, like I said, I didn't have these surprises because I had been paying throughout the year. So like I mentioned at the beginning, this is what I have done. And I just want to say that it has been so much less intimidating than I thought it was going to be. And I do recommend meeting and establishing a relationship with somebody who is a certified tax professional. That's what I've done. It worked really well for me, and it gave me some peace of mind too, to have somebody that I could ask questions to help me adjust things throughout the year. That is not my area of expertise, so I'm more than willing to pay somebody for their expertise, and knowing that it does give me that peace of mind and just helps me keep things in good standing. And like I said, I've not had any major surprises or anything where freak out moments since I started my business back in 2018, even in the beginning. And like I said, if anything, I actually had that pleasant surprise of like, whoa, I way oversaved. So that's never a bad thing, right? So I do have in my Pinterest Manager Academy, I actually have a guest expert training because I wanted to have somebody who truly was an expert in this specific area, who could provide advice from that standpoint of this is where I am professionally trained. So in my Pinterest Manager Academy, not only am I giving you the skills training, education, and coaching to become a Pinterest marketing expert and somebody who can offer these freelance services, but then I have guest experts come in and speak on different topics where that is their area of expertise and they can provide advice. So inside my academy, I did have a CPA come in and do a guest expert training, and it's so nice because for my students who enroll in the academy, they can go back and watch that guest expert training. And I had students, it was a live call, who were able to ask her questions. Also, her contact information is there, so if you wanted to ask her further questions, or even if somebody wanted her to come back and do another guest expert training, that's the thing that's so nice about my coaching academy, is that I provide what my students need so that they are setting up their successful business and getting that coaching and support they need to be successful. So I would love for you to check out my resources that are linked in this episode. If you want to learn more about becoming a Pinterest manager, I have a secret podcast. I have a couple of different trainings. One is my Pinterest Manager Challenge, and that really just focuses on getting your Pinterest manager portfolio done. My Pinterest pin designs training teaches you how to design a pin. Now, these are not the full picture. They are simply pieces of the puzzle. But I think if you're trying to decide, do I want the full academy? It does give you a really great taste of, do I want to do this? Can I see myself doing this? The Secret Podcast is a free resource. It's an amazing place to start. But then that design training on how to design a Pinterest pin, I think that gives people a lot of confidence too, because it shows you literally what you'd be doing for your clients and helps you think about, okay, I can do this. I can see myself doing this. And of course, it trains you how to design that first Pinterest pin too. So I'd love for you to check out those resources. I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. Let me know in the comments what you think, what other questions you have, and I can't wait to see you soon in next week's episode. Bye for now.